Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LIUNA 872 podcast. I'm your host, Mark DeMeo. This is our first one, and there's really no better way to start with. I'm so excited to have this kid on here, man. He just turned 22 years old. He's a phenom. He drives for us. He drives for LIUNA Racing. He's number 16, Tyler Ankrum. What's up, Tyler? How are you?
Hey man, I didn't know this was your first one. I'm honored to be the first guy. So yeah, I'm happy to be aboard.
Well, I'm happy to have you. It's my first podcast for LIUNA. Not my first podcast, but I've
Okay,
done
perfect.
hundreds and hundreds of them already before. But yeah, so I'm new here to LIUNA, and that was the first thing I got sent out on. And what a day! Because I got to tell you, I'm from the East Coast. I'm from New York originally. I've been here not even 2 months yet, and I'm loving it. But the first event that I had to go and basically cover was the race, the NASCAR race, the 2023 Truck Series, and I had never been to a NASCAR race before, and it was just unbelievable. I had such a great time that day. I learned so much, and now I'm aware why everybody, there's so many rabid fans, diehard fans, and you, may I say, were a complete gentleman. Like I mentioned, you just turned 22 on March 6th.
Yes, yeah.
That's incredible, man. How you were so poised, and I'm a performer. I'm a stand-up comic and an actor, and I don't want to talk to anybody before I go on stage, especially stand-up. But yeah, I guess you're used to it in a way. But you have to go out and you have to mingle prior to the race, which I found really interesting. Like you were out there signing autographs for a minute. You were taking pictures with us. Um, and you were basically just hanging around. And I know that you had a race to prep for. How do you like? When's your moment where you get to? When do you take your moment during that day?
Well, first off, thank you. Those are very kind words. Uh, it's tough because actually Vegas was a very, very busy day for me. Since we come out of COVID, we tip our days are a lot longer than what they used to be before COVID. Like my first year in the Truck Series in 2019, we had usually it was a 2 or 3 day show. We would get there, we practice and qualify on a Thursday or Friday. We had more than 2 hours of practice. It was single car qualifying, so qualifying took anywhere between hour and a half, 2 hours. And then after that, we'd have a whole afternoon, or we would come back and race the next day, where you would only have about 30, 40 minutes in between autograph sessions and TV and media room stuff. You'd only have 30, 40 minutes to really prep. So you're in all those blocks, you're doing it in between. When you're signing an autograph, a thought comes to your head, or like, oh, I should have done that in 3 and 4 when I was qualifying. And you have these just kind of glimpses while you're busy walking around, taking pictures. You're thinking about all that stuff at the same time. You get really, really good at kind of multitasking and separating yourself from the current moment that you're in to think about the race.
You're
But
working
for
the
me,
room.
excuse me.
You're working the room.
Yeah, you're pretty much working the room. Um, I've been doing this since I was 9 years old. My first race was on my ninth birthday, actually, and when you do it for so long, you really get used to the long busy days. Like I got to the track on Friday at Vegas at 7:30. That's when garage opened. So before all you guys got there and before practice and qualifying, I had a solid 4 hours to hydrate, eat. I had a lot of time to kind of relax, and so I kind of took that time to spend time with my guys on my team, go through tech, and really just spend more time with them. But right before the race, you guys all came out to the truck. We took pictures and we hung out, we talked, and for me, when they start doing the national anthem, we're doing intros. That's when I really get in my zone. Yeah, there you go. You threw the picture up. Yeah, right there. We're taking pictures out behind the truck on pit road on the front stretch. And right after that, I went to driver intros, and I come back. We talked a little bit more, but it was line up national anthem. And then, when I throw the helmet on and get in the truck, you're pretty much you're in the zone. Um, Growing up, trying to separate a lot of that stuff, um, it was hard at first because late model racing, super late model racing, you don't have any of that. You have driver intros on the front stretch. The fans come out of the stands, and you might spend 30 minutes doing signing autographs, but you had all day. So when you're trying to come out of that, the short track level into the national series, that can be pretty difficult because you're so used to just sitting in the hauler to the last second, getting in that mindset, and then you're going out to the car, go race. But no,
You
you
said, let me cut you up for a second. You said late model series. You know, I'm new to this whole thing, so can you tell me what that means?
sorry, what was that? You cut
The,
out there.
the late model series. You said when you were racing late model series. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the late model short track series, it's a perimeter late model. It's essentially what we would call just a short track car. They're purpose built. They're all over the country. Irwindale Speedway actually, they have a short track late model series. It's a lower series. It's a lot
Mhm.
like NASCAR's a lot like the MLB, where you have your stepping stones. So you
You
play
mean
high
like
school ball.
minor leagues, right?
Right. Then you can go play college, or you can go rookie league, single A, double A, triple A, MLBB. I think I don't remember all the terminology, but you can really, just use those stepping stones to really progress throughout your career. Win races, get noticed by guys. For me,
This is
growing up on the West Coast, yeah,
that's the midget
that's a
cars, right?
midget. Yeah, that's a midget. So actually, when I first started racing, I started racing quarter midgets, and that was my next step was a midget. That I think that's Kyle Larson at the Chili Bowl. Oh,
Oh, you
that's
know these
Christopher Bell.
people.
Sorry.
You know these people. That's so funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Christopher Bell. He's in the 71 car. He's in the iRacing car. That was
Wow.
actually at the Chili Bowl in January.
So those are the cars that you basically. Well, there was one step you said lower
Yep.
before you got to that level.
Yeah.
That's like a bigger midget car, right?
Yep. Yeah. So that's essentially a four-cylinder, 16 valve, uh, inline four-cylinder dirt open wheel car. We call those cars staggered cars. They have giant right rear tires. If you imagine having a red Solo Cup on its side and you just flipped it and it does that tight circle, that's
Mhm.
essentially what those cars are like. They just have a ton of stagger, giant right rear tire, a lot of horsepower for what they are, for their cubic inch, and they race those things on half miles, 3/8 miles, and they're a lot of fun actually.
Is that because I know you won 5 races in one year. That's when you won Rookie of the Year, right? How, what are you like
Mhm.
14 when you did that?
Yeah, so when I was, I think I was 13 or 14, I was racing late models. I won Rookie of the Year in late models. I'd won a handful or 4 or 5. I think you're at 4 or 5 races that year, mainly in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and that was kind of where my career really started to progress. After late models, I got into super late models. Super late model is a straight rail chassis. They're 6.0 engines, just spec 6.0 engines, and that isn't a NASCAR sanctioned series. That's more of a Southern Super Series Cars Tour, more of more just different tours. The reason why I went in that direction is because it was a bigger car, more horsepower, bigger racetrack, so aerodynamics comes more into play. Uh, it's a bigger series, so it's more competitive. And I raced those for 2 years or 3 years. My third year was part time because I was racing K&N NASCAR K&N cars. That was the year I had won 4 races in a championship in the NASCAR K&N series. And that
How,
same year, I won 3 or 4 Super Late Model races. And because I was part time in the Super Late Model car and full time in the K&N car, I raced 20 Super Late Model races and finished outside the top 5 one time. We had crashed at Nashville Fairgrounds, and then we were just absolutely, dominating every week in the K&N car.
oh man, speaking of crashing, I got something for you. I want you to. We're jumping ahead here, but you just brought up crashing, so I wanted to check. This is I got scared for you here. Where is it? You probably know what this is. This is
Yeah, Kansas.
That you're going to get a big run. Trucks on the high side. Caution is out.
Yeah,
and
I remember this.
big one. Rafael
Look at
Lassard
that.
is involved in that.
You're on
Yeah.
fire.
Playoff driver
Yeah,
for Ankrum.
Man, that's a tough break. Hard hit. It's got the fuel line knocked off. That's where that
Wow, that's
fire's
crazy,
coming
man.
from.
yeah.
Remember Ankrum.
Are you bugging out right there?
No, so it's another weird thing.
Because your
You
parents,
get used to it.
I don't know if your parents come to. I met your parents at that race, and they're really dynamite people. Your whole family, beautiful. Your grandmother made some brownies there that were awesome. It was just a phenomenal day. But if your parents are there watching, they got to be freaking out. Like your car's on fire.
Yeah. I would say my parents have probably only been scared once or twice. It was worse when I was a kid, when I was like, 12, 13 years old, getting in these big 500-600 horsepower cars. And I'm just a kid. I don't even have my driver's license yet. And I'm going to some of these racetracks going 150, 160 miles an hour. But no, that Kansas race, actually, we're probably coming off of that turn going 170 miles an hour.
Damn.
If I remember correctly, we averaged like 160 there in the race. So we're coming out of that turn 4, probably going high 160s, low 170s, especially if we were on new tires. And Lassard, they were racing 3-4 wide, and that wreck just happened in front of me. Like, when you're wide open at a lot of those places, your decision making is happening in 1/10, 2/10 of a second. And so there's really not a lot of margin for error. So when a wreck happens in front of you like that, there's really sometimes not a lot that you can do. And what I remember specifically about that race is that I hit the wall and it broke the steering arms in the car. So I couldn't turn. The left front was just pinned left and the right front was just pinned right. And so just the banking of the racetrack got me to safety, but it knocked the oil lines off the motor. It just broke the motor mounts, broke the oil lines off, and that's why there was that fire. And so I'm just my steering wheel's not working. So I'm just sitting there with my hands in my lap, because that's the safest place. Because when that steering wheel starts spinning, it'll suck your arm in. It'll pull you into the steering wheel. It's a very common thing for a guy, 1 or 2 guys every year, to get dislocate their shoulders, because when they're headed towards the wall, they don't let go of the steering wheel. They hang on. Which
Really?
If if you have pride, it's like, oh, I'm gonna drive the thing till I'm firewall deep. Every driver wants to be that way, but it's usually at the deficit of our health. So whenever you see the wall coming, the best thing and the safest thing you can do is just let go of the steering wheel. I grab onto my we have 5-point harnesses, so I just grab onto my shoulder straps, and I just let the wall come, because I've done it. Daytona 2020, I had my hands on the wheel, and we were coming down the backstretch on the white flag lap, and got car spun out in front of me. I T-boned him, and another car hit me from the right, and it spun the wheel out of my hands. And luckily it sucked both my arms in, so the wheel couldn't keep on spinning. If it would have only sucked one arm in, my arm would have just spun in the steering wheel, and it probably would have sucked me in and dislocated my shoulder. But luckily, both my arms went in, and it just couldn't move anymore. And so when stuff happens like that, you get very, very used to it. I know my parents do. They're not concerned about it a lot. I've only been injured, bad one time in a truck. I've raced with broken arms.
The trucks are light in the back, right? So they were a little bit even harder to drive because there's no weight in the back, right?
So actually, the trucks, the bodies are way bigger than what they appear to be than the chassis. Our chassis actually are probably only about 10 inches longer than the Cup cars. I know where you would get that thought. You look at any other street legal truck, or one of my first cars that I built was a 1970 El Camino, and they are notoriously light in the back of those cars, just because you have that long bed, and then all you have is a fuel cell in the back. But the trucks, we shorten up our rear clips, and then we just make the body bigger, and that's better for aerodynamics. You can really control the air more. So they are lighter than what they would be than a Cup car or an Xfinity car, but not by much, not by a huge margin.
Jessica, part of your team, she was kind enough to give us kind of we had a phenomenal time there. We got a chance to sit, I guess, where your team sits in those. It's like a bleacher, but you get to see all the
Yeah.
computer action, and you actually get a chance to put on some headphones. And I have got a chance to hear you communicating with. I guess you have a guy in the booth, right? You have a guy in the booth sitting way up top, and he's basically telling you about crashes that are happening or whatever's happening in front of you. Kind of like the way football, the way that the offensive coordinator, is seeing watching the defense. That's basically what he's doing, what they're doing for you. And I thought that was really interesting. But also, I guess in the beginning races they don't have those, right? You're on your own, because I don't think I saw that in that crash. That crash, it didn't look like
Yeah. So growing up racing open wheel cars don't have spotters. So growing up open wheel racing, you really can't, because of the helmets the way they are, you really can't see past 90 degrees. You can't see behind you at all, and you can't even really turn your head. So when you're growing up racing midgets, it's really more of a sport of racing like gentlemen. If you're at his right rear tire, he can't see you, and he can't feel you. So you would lift. You would give him, that would be his position. That'd be his spot. When you get into the stock car racing, we have spotters, because stock car racing, yeah, we have a rear view mirror, and we have a little tiny side mirror. Like our side mirror is that big, and our rear view mirrors.
Yeah, look at the
big.
car.
You really
There's
can't
really
see much out
there's
of
really
it.
nothing to the car at all. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing in there besides for there's nothing on the passenger side
Nope.
besides for your little area. There's nothing there.
Yep. So you can see in the picture right there, obviously it's an H pattern shifter. We have a flat gear transmission. So once we're up to speed, we don't need the clutch. It's a carbon seat. So it's a carbon seat with a titanium plate on the bottom. So NASCAR regulation, you have to have, your weight has to be a certain weight. Your seat does. So what we like to do is we like to make the seats out of carbon and then put a titanium or lead plate in the bottom to get that match weight with the rolls, because it's always better to have your weight as low as you can possibly have it. Then we have a digital dash, and then obviously steering column. That's it.
There's not much in there at all, man.
No.
It was so the cars have to obviously be a certain amount of weight. What is it, like 3,500 pounds or something? That's it.
It's close to that. It's 3,450.
And I noticed that you're a bigger driver than the ones that the other guys that I saw, other drivers walking around. You're kind of on the bigger side, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I'm also one of the taller ones too. I'm 6'1", 200 pounds.
Yeah,
I was.
The other drivers I
Excuse me?
saw were like 5'8", like 140 or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, some of those guys get really small. Trying to think. Rajah Caruth, I think he's like 5'6". I tower over him, and I'm 6'1". Like that's tall, but I can call 8 guys right now that are 6'3", 6'4", and they tower over me, right? But I think it's just more kind of like a jock thing. You don't really see a lot of tall jockeys out there, so.
You know who was there making his rounds? Richard Petty, still alive, and shaking hands. He's actually pretty tall. So if
Yeah.
he was driving back then he was driving in like the late 50s.
Yep.
And what a gentleman, man. People were bugging out to him when he was walking through the crowd saying hello to people and shaking people's hands. People were losing their minds. They're like, the goat, the goat. They kept screaming, the goat. There goes the goat. And,
Yeah.
I took that picture of him. Yeah, so you're on the kind of, you're 6'1" and you're 200 pounds, and I'm sure what is it, like 136 laps you did for that race? That's how many laps it is.
So yeah, so it was a 200-mile race. It's a mile and a half racetrack. So yeah, the number would turn out to be, yeah, that sounds close. Probably about 130, 120, 130.
You know what? I wanted to show you the video from the beginning. Me trying to do an opening for the podcast, which was like a dumb idea, where I'm at a racetrack. You know what I'm saying? So Let me see if I want to find this video file. Where is it? You know what? Cancel this. Let me see if I could just do it this way. Let me know if you can see this.
Racing enterprise
Yeah.
driven by 22-year-old phenom Tyler Ankrum.
Wait, I want to start from the beginning.
Welcome to
Watch.
the LIUNA 872 podcast. I'm your host. My name is Mark DeMayo, and today we are coming to you from the 2023 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series races at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's sponsored by the Victorious Voice Foundation and presented by the Westgate Resorts. The LIUNA union workers are proud to be sponsoring truck number 16. Here it goes. That was it. From the Hattori Racing Enterprises and driven by 22-year-old phenom Tyler Ankrum. Let's go, Tyler.
What a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
That I
Perfect
just
intro.
turned around and there you go.
That was a perfect intro.
It just goes to show you, like, I know I've watched it on TV before, but there's nothing like being there in person because it's so loud. You were the only car on the track there by I guess you were doing your pre-quals or maybe there was a couple of cars behind you, I forget, but at that moment you were just the only car going around and it was so loud. Like you heard it right there. You couldn't
Yeah.
hear my voice.
I always tell everybody that you can start watching NASCAR races on TV, but TV doesn't do it justice. I don't even think being in the grandstands really does it. Sorry, the air compressor in the shop's going.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
Okay, never mind. We're good. But the TV never does it justice. I don't even think being in the grandstands really does it justice because you can't see or feel the speed. When you're standing there on pit road and we're coming out of turn 4 and the cars, we're going 180, 190 miles an hour and the car's just going like we're flying by we're going down the straightaway. The straightaway, that's a quarter mile. We're traveling like 2-3 football fields a second. We're just flying. And so when people go to NASCAR races for the first time, they become fans for life. And I tell people all the time, listen, if you're looking to be, get into NASCAR, get into motorsport, don't start watching on TV. Just start going to races.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's going to cost you a little bit, but go wherever F1, NASCAR, IMSA racing, short track racing, go find a race to watch and go watch it in person because you'll have a much greater appreciation for it than what you do on TV because, yeah, on TV, you see a lot more, but you don't feel the energy. You don't feel the excitement.
It's unbelievable.
The truck race, we are a premier series in NASCAR, but we're not the top premier like Xfinity or Cup. But we still get, and it's funny because people ask me all the time on TV, like, hey, nobody comes to the truck races. Why is that? It's like, well, you don't realize that there's 20,000 people in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
But, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, their capacity is like 80. So, yeah, the grandstands look completely empty.
Mm-hmm.
Daytona International Speedway, it seats 110,000 on the front stretch.
Wow.
And they sell, I want to say they sold out the truck race this year. It was 37,000 tickets sold for the truck race. I mean, that's just an insane amount of people. But the stadiums are so big that it looks like they're empty. And we go to these short tracks, like we went to ORP last year. They sold that race out, and there were 3,000 people there, and it looked like a jam-packed race. Like there was all these people here, but it's like, no, you don't understand. Like there's way more people at Daytona. It just doesn't really look like that. But when you go to the autograph sessions and you go down to pit road, you can really feel the excitement. You can feel the tension. It's a completely different way of experiencing racing.
Yeah, you guys are like superstars. I swear to God, man. When I saw the excitement of the people that were online waiting to get your autographs, and you all kind of sort of sit there together, right next to each other. So I'm sure that it's an intimate sport. It's even though you're competing against each other, I'm sure that these are some of your best friends. I can only imagine because you spend so much time and you see them all the time. But speaking of that, though, you mentioned earlier about the when you're driving NASCAR, I guess you can bump each other, right? And what's a bump? Like, what's cheating, and what's just like allowed? Like, how do you know like somebody's cheating right now?
Oh, well, a lot of times, if you've been around long enough, all you really have to do is walk down pit road and look at his body. You're like, okay, like, yeah, like how he didn't fail tech, we don't know, but that's the big part of the game, right? Or my team, my crew chief, my engineer, my mechanics, their job isn't to cheat. Their job is to push the envelope and find the gray area. Our jobs are to make NASCAR write new rules, not try to cheat the current ones. Especially way back in the day, the 80s, 90s, when aerodynamics started becoming more of a thing, and there were a lot more tricks to play. With all this new technology that we have, and we're starting now experiment with, yes, for sure, there are definitely rules that you can bend, but I mean, a lot of times all you gotta do is look at the stopwatch. When a guy goes out and qualifies and he's 7/10 faster than the rest of the field, it's like, yeah, they got something going on with their motor, or they got something going on with their body. We don't know what it is yet, but odds are NASCAR recognized that, and they're going to tell them, hey, don't bring this truck back next week because we're taking it. And they have done that in the past. They probably take a truck at least once a year from a team. And so you really, really have to be keen on other teams and what they're doing, because the second you get behind, you have a really hard time catching up.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's
I was
just a
gonna
cliche.
ask you about that, but before I do, I just wanted to ask you, when I actually you brought up, you went in a totally different direction, because you were talking about the truck cheating. Like when they're adding, I would have imagined adding something like, I don't even know whether nitric oxide, whatever. But I was actually talking about the physical aspect of cheating, like
Mhm.
ramming somebody,
Mhm.
or you know, like physically pushing them out of the way. That's okay to do that.
Oh yeah, that's with NASCAR racing. That's more of a self-governed thing. There really aren't rules. There are some rules, like NASCAR will give you a penalty. They'll give you a black flag, or it might be a monetary penalty. Um, they don't want you using your vehicle as a weapon. So if the caution flag flies and we're under caution, we're all pacing behind the pace vehicle, and I ram another truck, yeah, I'm going to get a penalty. I'm going to get black flagged, or if it's bad enough in their eyes, it'll be a monetary penalty, which is something that you don't want to do, because NASCAR loves their penalties and they love making money. And you don't necessarily want that at all. But when you're racing, especially short track racing, I would put it to you this way: the truck series is full of young guys, so we're all young, we're all brash. We're not very good at the decision making part yet, because our brains are still developing. So I would say truck races are like Friday night bar fights. It's a bunch of people, well, kids, really. It's what we are, kids, that aren't coherent. We're not making smart decisions, and is ramming, bumping, moving people out of the way with no regard for their safety or for your own. And we're just trying to find a way to get to the front as fast as possible. When you get to the Xfinity Series, when you get to the Cup Series, they race more like gentlemen. They recognize the fact, like, hey, this is a 500-mile race. If I bump this guy and move him out of the way lap one, it's coming to me at the end. Like, I'm gonna get payback. And so that's what a lot of this really is. It's give and take. Um, I I think I fall into the catacomb where I race respectfully, and I really try not to, really rub too many feathers the wrong way, which is a really good thing, because it means guys trust racing around you. But that can also mean a bad thing, because the guys that we call them squirrels, or we call them weapons, that aren't trustworthy, they'll use that against you. And so there's this, well, he's not in the series anymore. He was full time for a couple years. And it was like every week, man, I couldn't get away from this guy. He was bumping me, spinning me out, dooring me, trying to pit maneuver me, like every race. So finally, I think it was Coda, came over the radio for 4 laps in a row. He bumped me, moved me out of the way, and I passed him back. Like, I was just faster than him. But every single time I got back by him, he didn't like that. And so I finally came over the radio, and I just said, hey, can I spin this guy out? And my crew chief was like, I don't know why you're asking me. Do it. And so I spun him out. And for the next 3 races, I bumped him, moving out of the way. And for the rest of the year, we didn't have another problem. And so a lot of the times, a lot of it, what it is just commanding respect and saying, hey, this is my position on the racetrack. If a guy starts turning down in front of you, you don't start moving your wheels to avoid him. You hold that wheel straight and you let him spin himself out, and let him know later, or let him know in that exact moment, like, yeah, I thought he was going to give it to me, but you know what? I try to bluff him, and I couldn't get the bluff through, and now here I am sitting here wrecked. So a lot of that stuff.
Bullying is a
Mhm.
good word for that. Just testing you, pushing you to see
Yep.
how far you could. If I could just push
Yep.
you out of the way, you're never going to fight back. Which
Right.
brings me to this other point I wanted to ask you: physical endurance, mental fatigue. And also, what is it that separates? Because I would imagine when you started in the midget cars, there was hundreds of other kids who wanted to be professional racers. Their parents wanted to be NASCAR drivers as well. And you just had something that was unique, that was different. What is that? Is it the fear factor? Like you're not scared? Does your brain just work faster? Do you see things quicker than the average person does?
So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. This is where you kind of get into the argument of, are you born with talent? Are you born with it as a God-given thing, or is it nature versus nurture? If you grew up in Earl Woods' house, take away Tiger Woods and put yourself in Earl Woods' house, would you then become Tiger Woods? Or did Tiger already have it when he was born, and then Earl just, by nurture, got him to where he was? I think it's a combination of both. A guy that I really look up to, I have had an opportunity to work with a couple times. His name is Kyle Larson. When I was with Chevrolet, we had the Chevrolet driver development program, and he would come in every once in a while, and we would do these hand-eye coordination workouts, and he would do things with a speed that is just unfathomable. He would get 99 out of 100. I get 27 out of 100, and I'm like I'm just spun out. I don't even know really what to do. But there are studies now that the manufacturers, even the teams that have done, the male's brain development doesn't, our brains don't stop developing until we're 24, 25, 26. And our bodies don't stop developing until we're like 28. And so with Kyle Larson being in his early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, he's already gone through all of that. So of course, trying to compare myself to him sometimes is okay, it's unrealistic because his brain's already developed. His brain can already, do all those things, and actually my brain's still trying to learn that. But I think when it comes to a guy like him versus a guy like Kyle Busch, it's so hard to say because they're both revered as such great drivers. It's really hard to know what the makeup of their brain was. So that's where, especially in racing, the nurture of how you were brought up is really a big thing. I grew up racing. My dad was my first was my car owner, my team owner, my crew chief, my mechanic. Going up racing with my dad, it was just me and him. Me and him did everything together. And I worked on my cars, and I worked alongside with my dad. And then when it was time to go racing, I got in the car, and growing up racing, my dad got better because he became a better crew chief. I became a better driver, and there became a certain point where a driver just becomes better than the car. That can take a year, take 6 months, it could take 5 years. But the biggest part about racing is staying in it long enough to figure that out, figure out what that magic is, who it's with, what car, what body. You got to find that magic. And that's the biggest part about racing. There are so many things about racing that can go wrong. Signing with the wrong manager, signing with the wrong car owner, crew chief. There's so many things so many dominoes that can fall in so many different directions to really derail your career. It's more common to see in the old days because there were just more teams, there was just more drivers than it is today. There's a lot fewer teams, a lot fewer drivers, but it happens quite often. or you see a guy coming up in the short track series and he's hauling the mail, winning a bunch of races, and he gets the national series and doesn't really do much. Well, what worked for him there and what's not working for him here is something that you really have to find within yourself, and that's where you have to have a really good support group coming up through these series. I personally think the guys that don't make it are the ones that really don't have those strong support groups. Where, for me growing up, my mom, my dad, they wanted it bad, so bad for me. They helped make the decisions of who to hire, who to go with, where to go race, because they understood the fact that some of these kids, like, their dad's just, writing the check. He doesn't come to the races. He doesn't really know what's happening. They don't have this strong support base at home. This sport, when you're getting into it from a young age, it really, really takes everybody. It's not just about me. It's about my whole family. And
Yeah,
it still is.
it seems like you're like what you're saying is spot on, because your family was there, very, very supportive. It just looked like a class act, and I know that you're very, very busy with the racing, but I would imagine that your downtime, the time that you have off, you have to also utilize that to kind of sort of somehow create a balance in your life. Also mentally, to get a break and not think about it. And I know that you guys have a farm, right? And you like being outdoors and letting a couple of rounds go. I heard,
Yeah.
So hunting and fishing and all that good stuff.
Yeah. The really funny thing is so I grew up on a ranch, but my father owns a meat processing and packaging company. So for me growing up, the ranching thing, the cattle thing was very normal, but the hunting was abnormal. The fishing was abnormal because, my dad, living in the meat industry, the idea of climbing 8,000 feet to go find Bambi is just ridiculous. Like, I'm going to go to the supermarket, I'm going to come home, and I'm going to have a drink, and I'm going to watch the race. And I'm going to have an awesome steak instead of this just, very, stringy, not good tasting at all deer. Like, the idea of hunting to him is just, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So the whole hunting thing for me, growing up, I got super interested in it when I was 13 years old, and that was kind of something on my own that I found passion in, and it's something that I took more seriously when I moved to North Carolina, because in North Carolina you just have more opportunity. Growing up in Southern California, it's practically becoming illegal to own a gun in Southern California.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's crazy.
when it's a lot more accessible out here. But for me, just it's funny because when people ask me, what do you do for hobbies? It's like, oh yeah, I worked on the ranch. We put up a fence yesterday and we built corrals and yada yada yada. And they're like, well, that sounds like work. It's like, well, maybe that is work. I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel like it because I don't necessarily live that life. But for me, it's an escape to think about something different, to kind of get myself out of a rhythm. You would think that you would want to stay in the rhythm, but you stay in that. If you get stuck in that rhythm, you stay in that rhythm, you become complacent. You gotta have something other than, obviously the goal is to win every race the next week, but you gotta have something to break that up. Because if not, halfway through the season, come summertime, you're driving yourself crazy. So like yesterday, we worked 70 head of cows. Where they're all pregnant. We're all pregnant right now, so we vaccinated a lot of them, and we preg checked a lot of them. And I got on my horse Badger, and we worked cows for about 4.5 hours. And then because it'd been a little while for him, I walked him, lunged him, made sure he was good. He wouldn't lock up afterwards. And then I went in the house, watched a little bit of film. Actually, I had actually watched 2007 Bristol, just an old awesome cup race, just for fun, just to kind of get myself back in that rhythm. So when I woke up this morning at 6 a.m., went to the gym, spent 2 hours at the gym.
What are you doing in the gym? Well, how is your workout different than me? I go to the gym. I used to be a bodybuilder, so that's
Mhm.
kind of still the same routine I do. But yours must be different. What are you doing in there?
So for me, really a balance of everything. So I work out twice a day. I'll lift in the morning. I'll run in the afternoon. So actually, when I get done with this, I'm going to go back to Toyota. Our manufacturer has a gym here in Mooresville, North Carolina, and I'm going to go run just 2 miles, and then I'll
Let's
go
give them
home
a
and work
shout
out.
out.
Then, yep, yep. There
Artillery
it goes.
Racing
Toy Racing
Enterprises.
Enterprises,
Give
our
them a shout
manufacturers,
out.
Toyota. We have Toyota has a simulator rig in Salisbury, North Carolina, and then we have a workout facility for all the Toyota drivers here in Mooresville. But it's a very much of a balance between weightlifting and
I'm
running.
sure you guys aren't just going there and just drinking in the back, right? You go in one door, and then you go
No,
out the back, and there's a keg there, and all the Toyota
no.
guys are just drinking back there.
You'd actually, you know what? I tell this to a lot of people. You'd be very, very surprised about how even even the most immature guys in our sport are more mature than a normal kid their age. You'd be very, very surprised. Obviously, we like to party. Who doesn't like to party? Who doesn't like to have a good time? But a lot of these guys that I appreciate a lot about them is when it's go time, it's go time. It was actually funny today because we were in the gym and my strength coach, he loves rap, so we're listening to rap, and I go over to his phone and I put a um, I put on a Godsmack standalone, just a
Uh-huh.
perfect lifting because we were lifting this morning,
Yeah.
just like a 7 a.m. lift, and I put Godsmack's rock song on, and it was
Mhm.
just like you heard metal starting to clank. You just start hearing guys working harder because it just
Uh-huh.
put everybody in that mindset. And it was kind of like, oh, this is cool. Like just a moment, we just all just had a moment, and that's the really
That's
cool
the way the
part
gyms used to
about a lot
be.
of these guys.
When I first started working out, that's the way gyms used to be. We didn't have, there was no earbuds or whatever. You went to the gym and whatever there was a good song cranking on, you went behind the desk and you cranked it up, and that's how you worked out back in the day. Now everybody kind of sort of has their own music and their own thing going on. So it's good that you're still communicating with each other and in
Yep.
each other's spaces. It's a motivation, motivates you. Let me ask you, since you're this NASCAR driver, you know what I'm saying, and then when the people introduce you, you meet somebody. I'm sure you come across a wise guy every now and then, like, oh, I do some
Turn
street racing
circles.
and stuff like that. And he goes, you want to race? Yeah, you ever get that? Like some street guy wants to race you and stuff like that.
So,
I'm sure they're
so that's
jealous.
the kind of the cool part. Luckily, I got all that out of my system. When I was in high school, being the kid that had my first car, me and my dad built in 1970 El Camino, 396 big block, you know, 373 rear gears, which is perfect for highway and the drag strip.
Mhm.
And we had the guy who built my motor. I'm gonna screw up his last name or his first name, but his last name is Van Gordon. He's in San Bernardino. He actually built my dad's motor, and I still have all the receipts. He put a big like 13-inch stall in because I have the TH400 automatic, but he put the 13-inch stall in it, so it just makes all this torque. Like just like it's just like it's a perfect automatic for a 1970 El Camino. And every kid, drives their dad's Mustang to school or his dad's Dodge, and so everybody just always wanted to
We
race me.
we had a Plymouth Scamp. No, was it a Plymouth Scamp? Oh, my grandparents' car was hideous, man. Plastic seats. It was a scamp. You got to look that up, man. It was nothing AM radio, not even FM. It didn't go up more. If you brought it up to 60, it would shake violently at 60 miles an hour. So yeah, you were fortunate. Your dad had a Mustang. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, I want to ask you a question about this because this is the I got this. This is the pit stop. This was fascinating to me because this is when I was sitting up there and really up front and center. Well, before I do that, I just want to mention prior to this pit stop, you had, because I was listening, you had mentioned that I think you thought you had a flat or that the front end is kind of shaky. I remember you telling him the guy above your spotter, and then him telling you, I guess, to pull it in your next time around, or not that time around, maybe another time around. I don't know if that's something that happens. Like he doesn't think it's that serious, so bring it. Try to get around one more time before you stop. And also, like, what are you doing in there? Like you don't get out. You're still in there. So are you checking your phone? What are you putting up Instagram? What are you texting people? What are you doing in there?
No, so so they were making a lot of adjustments that stop. So when I was saying that, what happened is we had kind of the track changes every year. So that track Las Vegas Motor Speedway, it's been getting rougher and rougher. So that means we have to be more compliant with our shocks and our springs. So we went to that racetrack. Doug Randolph, he's a new crew chief of mine. We went to that racetrack a little bit more soft and a little bit more compliant. So what I was basically saying is our splitter gap, the left front was too high. So what was happening, I was turning off the wall, and the left front splitter was just picking up before it dropped. And it was allowing all that air underneath the car. And so it was really just taking that right front tire and shoving it. And I was just shoving up the racetrack. And so essentially what just happened is it blown up, not blown up physically, but a bunch of air just built up in the tire. And I had 90 pounds of air pressure in the inner liner. And so my right front tire was just bouncing like a basketball. I had no grip. That's why I was turning off the corner, just shooting up the racetrack. There was nothing there. There was no grip. The tire just when they blow up like that, you lose a lot of your tire contact patch because we have slicks, and so they're really flat. And what happens is it starts to, we start here, really flat, a lot of grip, and then when you build air pressure like that, it starts doing this. You lose tire contact patch, and so we came in, made a bunch of adjustments. So that was actually a very, very slow stop. Our stops are usually 13 seconds, but we're coming down pit road, 55 miles an hour, roughly, depends where we go. Second gear, I clutch it, come to the box, I put it in neutral, and the goal is to lock the tires and slide because the right front tire changer, the right rear tire changer, they're looking for their first lug nut, and so when you stop right in front of them, they can just punch it and pull the trigger and start hammering all the lug nuts. And so when that's happening, you can't ever put it in gear because the tires it'll shock the tires and just kind of make them just roll. And so that'll slow the pit stop down. So I'm waiting for them to drop the jack on the right side. So when they drop the jack on the right side, I then take the truck and put it in neutral. I clutch it. That's when my interior guy, he rips off my windshield tear off. He usually hands me a water bottle, an extra water bottle, or an ice pack, depending on if I asked for it or not. Vegas was a cold race, so I never asked for it. I just asked for a water bottle to keep me hydrated. And then he jumps back over the wall. I keep it clutched, left foot on the clutch, right foot on the brake, and then I'm getting the RPMs up using my heel. So we call it heel toe. So I'll keep my toes on the brake to make sure the truck doesn't roll, and then I'll keep my put my heel on the throttle. So when they drop the jack, I just drop the clutch and I throttle up and I do a burnout out of the stall, because the goal is then get to second gear and get to pit road speed, the max pit road speed, as fast as possible.
Let's see what that looks like since we have it.
Yeah, so you can see him doing wedge adjustment, back, put gas down. He's going to pull a packer here in the left front, throw on the tire. There you go. So right there, I'm not going to jump out of the pits necessarily right away because I'm waiting for my crew chief. I'm waiting for my crew chief to say something like, hey, when you're sitting there up down on the pit box like you're talking about earlier, you're sitting up above the crew chief, my engineer, and probably one of my mechanics. They're looking at notes. They're making sure, like, hey, did you get it? Did you pull the packer? Did you do the wedge adjustment? So he's going to wait, make sure we're all good, because when you make that many adjustments like we had trying to get closer, trying to make the truck better, when you make as many adjustments as that, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, because those pit crew guys, they're not mechanics. Their job is purely to, pit the car, change tires as fastly. They're athletes. These guys are incredible shape. A lot of them are ex-football players, baseball players. They're just just pure athletes. And so, you're gonna thumbs up, we're good. All right, now you can go. On a different pit stop where we're just trying to gain as many positions on pit road as we can, we're gonna come in, we're just gonna do tires, and then as soon as the jack drops, go. A lot of times too, there's a guy standing on the left side, right in front of my headlight. He's got his hand out, like, hey, and then go. So not only do I have visual confirmation, I also have confirmation coming in through my earbuds.
Yeah, there's like a million and one things going on there. It's just I saw one guy. He was on the side lighting the tires on fire and using a knife to scrape it off. I thought that was pretty interesting too. I guess those tires, they I don't know how long they last, but you just don't throw them out, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. When those tires, when they come off the truck, they're done. The reason why he was scraping those tires is because there's just these indentions. There's little tiny circles that go all the way through the rubber. So what they'll do is they'll scrape all the stuff the tires pick up under caution. They'll scrape that off so they can get to the true surface of the tire, and then they'll do the depth gauge. So that tire, when it comes on brand new, it's call it 3/8 of an inch thick. That's the amount of rubber that will be on it, or call it 8 millimeters. And then by the time it comes off, it'll be 3 millimeters. So then they know that how much rubber my truck, how much of the tire I had used. So then they'll take that information, they'll do every tire, and they'll be like, wow, he wore down the right rear tire a lot. He must be loose. He used it a lot, or he used the right front tire a lot. So then they'll try to diagnose the truck. They have their own information, then they have my information to go off of. That's where being a driver and knowing what your truck is doing is super important. Being incredibly in tune with the truck, because if you tell everybody like, hey, a truck's loose, but if your right front tire is building all this air pressure and it's wore down way more than your right rear, well, it's like, okay, well, then he's doing something to the truck to make it tight. Vice versa, because you can manipulate the tires from inside the truck to do things that you want the truck to do, especially under caution. You can build air in the tire to help you handle differently.
Yeah, you seem to know like every single thing about that truck. I mean, I'm sure most drivers are just like you, but I mean,
be surprised.
They don't, huh? Some of them don't.
No, you'd be surprised. So actually, I was out. I don't remember where I was at. I was out somewhere. It's probably actually, you know what? I want to say I was at a drag race, and I was just standing there talking with another driver. He's a cup driver. And he's like, yeah, man, my car is, it's running really hot right now. I'm like, well, go to AutoZone, get wetter water and distilled water and fill it up. It's probably what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do I do that? You go to the radiator cap and you untwist it and you fill it up. Well, where's that? What? Like, you're a cup guy. Like, so
really?
But you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. A lot of these guys, they didn't grow up working on race cars. They didn't grow up working on cars, and some of them couldn't tell you what, where. Some who couldn't tell you where the O2 sensor's at. Some of them couldn't even tell you what springs in their right rear.
Do you do a lot of practicing? I mean, I know that you're practicing on the course itself whenever you have a chance, but is there any way to practice at home, like using that the same way with simulators? Are you doing any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so the manufacturers have a simulator. It's the simulators. The room itself is the size of a typical like movie theater, and there's a car in the middle, and it's on jack posts, and you can simulate almost to the nth degree of what, how the track's going to handle, how the truck's going to handle. You can actually work on setups. I also have a simulator at my house. It's just a small chassis. I just have 3 monitors and a seat. And actually, we were looking at a picture of the midgets at the Chili Bowl. iRacing. Christopher Bell is sponsored by them in the open wheel car, and that's online. I call it racing game, but it's super close as well. The only thing that my simulator at home doesn't do that the manufacturer simulator does is motion. So the manufacturer simulator, it can get motion. That the car, when you turn the simulator on, it jumps up and it'll simulate going over curbs or coming down to the corner. And then the belts in the seat, they're all pressure sensitive to the simulator. So, I'm sitting stationary, but the belts are pulling on me
Oh,
and
wow.
forcing against my body to make it feel like I'm in a real race car.
That's the one
And
you have at
so,
home?
no, that's
No, no, no.
that's the
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what I was
that's the
thinking.
multi-million-dollar simulator. No, my simulator at home, I think all in, it was like $800, with everything.
You know what? I promised that I'd have you done in a half hour. Well, I lied to you because I knew this was going to go good. We're at 56
It's all right.
minutes right now, believe it or not. So I just have two more things. First of all,
All right.
you're going to be back in Las Vegas on for the 120th birthday of LIUNA. And I was when I was
Yes.
at the track, there was a bunch of people there that didn't know what LIUNA stood for, and they're always getting asked what LIUNA stands for. Well, it's the Laborers International Union of North America, the Laborers International Union of North America, and they're celebrating their 120th birthday celebration. And you'll be here with your truck number 16, the Toyota Tundra, and you'll be, I guess, hanging out with it and available. And it's going to be taking place at the Wynn, and this is going to take place in April, the Wynn Hotel, and this will take place in April. And I'll be there to hang out with you again.
Oh, cool.
I'm looking forward to that. And I've just got two more things. It says Jessica gave me a note. You don't like chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
When did you figure that out?
Man, I haven't liked chocolate as long as I can remember.
What is it
I don't
about
know
it that
what
you
it
don't
is.
like?
Yeah.
Just the taste?
But here's the thing. I like Andy's chocolate. Like those little tiny green you get at restaurants. They're like
No,
the
what
mint
is?
chocolates.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? The Andy's chocolate?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Andes. Yeah. Well, that's just a layer, and then it's the mint inside. It's
Yep.
the green.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I like that, but like dark chocolate, no, I don't like
no.
it. No.
People push the dark chocolate, and I'm going to tell you something. As a healthier choice, if I'm going to have chocolate, I want to have chocolate I enjoy. You know what I'm saying? Listen. I get it. There's a bunch of stuff that I don't like either, but I just thought I never met anybody who didn't like chocolate.
Yeah, oh, and I like white chocolate. I don't know why.
Yeah, you see, I'm not a big fan of white chocolate. I could do without
So
it.
weird.
So
I'm
that's another thing there. And finally, there was one more thing I wanted to do. Oh, is Talladega Nights your favorite movie? Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell. If you're not first, you're last.
favorite movie?
I know one of your. Do you like it?
I
love that
love
movie.
Talladega Nights. I
I
love
love it.
Talladega Nights. To me, Talladega Nights it's that perfect 2000s comedy. It's to me, it's like Step Brothers, Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
it's just it's the 2000s comedy that it's the movie that is perfect once a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you watch it once a year and it makes you laugh so hard. Actually, it was funny you mentioned that because I watched it last night, and the scene in the bar when Faithfully starts playing Journey's the song Faithfully by Journey. It started playing in the truck this morning when I was on my way to the gym. It was like it's funny. And yeah, it's up there. Top 3 racing movies for me.
Oh, since you brought it up, well, what are the other ones? The reason why I mentioned that is the one that comes to my head is the one with Tom Cruise, and
Days
I
of
don't know.
Thunder.
Yeah, how was that?
So
Realistically wise,
if I tell people that when they ask me this question, if you want to get the romanticism of racing, of stock car racing, watch Days of Thunder, because the romanticism of that is it's spot on. It's almost perfect. When I watch that movie, there's one or two things that's like that's not really right. But like in the movie, when Cole Trickle wants to go faster, he just pulls another gear at Daytona. It's like, it doesn't work like that.
Uh-huh.
When Cole Trickle's come out turn 2, Harry Gant comes on the radio. It's like, he's on your door. It's like, well, Harry Gant couldn't even see him. That's the job of the spotter. But that's just for Hollywood's sake. Obviously they're not going to add that. But no, Days of Thunder is probably the best. Is the best racing movie when it comes to the romanticism of NASCAR and the sport.
Give us one more, second best. Somewhere, a movie maybe that if you're not a racing aficionado, you probably wouldn't watch it, but it's really good if you want to know about racing.
It's a movie. I forget the name of the movie, but it's a 60s movie with Jeff Bridges. I want to say it's called American Racer.
Oh yeah.
It's about NASCAR in the 40s and 50s with Jeff Bridges in it when Jeff Bridges was real young.
And I watch Formula One on Netflix. I really enjoy that show. Do you like that?
Here's the thing. People say, NASCAR is becoming more and more political. If you think NASCAR is political, just watch Drive to Survive. The sheer amount of politics in that sport, and really just kind of like they openly talk about like this driver's job is to finish second. Like that's a really hard as a competitor. That's something that's really hard to wrap my brain around. I can't. And so when I see that, it makes me mad, especially when you saw what happened with Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton before Bottas went to Alfa Romeo. It's just the amount of politics that goes into it. Like when Verstappen and Hamilton were at Monza, and Verstappen, they were wheel to wheel, and you can see it on when you look at the overhead. When Leclerc and Hamilton were that same exact position, Hamilton gave him the room, and Leclerc didn't complete the pass. And on Verstappen and Hamilton, you can see that Hamilton did give him the room. And then what happens is Verstappen climbs Hamilton's car, and a very scary thing happened where the tire was on Hamilton's head, back of his head. Very scary thing to happen. But they show it on Drive to Survive. Toto Wolff's on the phone, that driver's so stupid. He's so aggressive. He's yada yada. So then they reprimand him because, Formula One, it's not a self-governed sport, a lot like NASCAR is, where it's, you try to race as gentlemanly as possible. That is governed by the sanction. And that's where a lot of times I have gripes with, Formula One when I watch it. I get so mad because it's just like, let them race. Like, let them put on a good show. Let them beat and bang. Let them tear each other's wings off. Like, let them do it. Like, it'll make a better show. And so when I watch the Drive to Survive and you see the politics and you see the drama, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's not that dramatic, but they hype it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it with a different eye now that I talk to you. That being said, man, we went over an hour, man, and I know you got to get back to doing your stuff. And I really want to thank you. And on behalf of all the people here at LIUNA 872, man, I hope they enjoyed this episode. I know they will. And I'm going to motivate them. Hopefully, whoever didn't make, there was lines of people here to get tickets for the NASCAR, by the way. Because they had tickets that they were giving out too. And they didn't have any more. They ran out. So I'm sure whoever is straggling and still hasn't been out there, I'm going to make sure that we get them out there to support you. But thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in April. You gave me your time, and I really, really appreciate it. We appreciate it. And I wish you all the best. Good luck to your whole team.
Thank you. One last thing. I've said this at a couple of line events that I've gone to, whether it was the San Diego Leadership Conference or the Leadership Conference in the Midwest, or even in New York. It's no matter where I've gone, you people of LIUNA have treated me like family. And I said earlier in this podcast that to make it work in this sport, you got to have an extremely strong support base, and it really starts with your family. It takes an army to make this possible, to make the dream come true. And to you, to all of LIUNA, all its half million plus members, I really cannot thank you guys enough, because no matter what I've done, where I've gone, I've never heard one bad thing come towards my way or to anybody else's way. It's really, truly an honor to be a part of this brotherhood, this family of LIUNA. I've truly never seen it with another partner of mine, with an organization such as this organization that really, truly works and pulls the rope in one direction. It's awesome to see, and I'm obviously excited to see you again in April.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
All the
Appreciate
best to you. Do you have a race coming up? Or
Yeah, Atlanta this weekend.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna wish you all the best of luck. I'm gonna say some prayers for you and the family, and hopefully we'll get a win.
Thank you.
And thank your
man.
team for making you
Yes,
available.
sir. Thank you.
All right.
I'll
All
let
the
'em know.
best. I look forward to
Thanks,
seeing you.
sir.
Bye now. Thank you.
Bye.